Good morning, everyone. We're about to get started, and our first presenter, let's welcome him. His name is Kevin Schindler from Raritan Valley Community College in Branchburg, New Jersey.
It's too early. Let's just leave it there. All right. Good morning, everybody. Yes, today we're going to be talking about using, I don't have to stand too close. Good. About using open source software to make interactive exhibits. This was a little project that we did at our planetarium because we wanted to update our exhibits. We used Unity, Blender, and Inkscape to make an HR diagram so the kids could interact. Because what we had was just an old styrofoam blacklight, not interactive, static. I mean, the blacklights are cool, but besides that, not really much to it. And this is a part of our exhibit area that the kids have to actually read and look through because we have a scavenger hunt that goes through the exhibit area, and this is one of those stops that they have to explore. So we wanted to liven it up a little bit, so we used Unity. In case you don't know, Unity is, we wanted literally anything else. Unity is a game engine. It's a very complex program, but it is free, and there is a lot of help out there. And the way I used it, it was actually very simple because Unity is very powerful, so you can make like an actual video game, like in-game physics, materials, and everything in there. But I wanted to use it a little bit simple, and we basically just made a panel, not a game, but a panel interactive exhibit. We also used Blender. We all love Blender here. And Inkscape. Inkscape is the open source equivalent of, what's the Adobe one? Illustrator. Okay, yes, Illustrator. So free software. We love free software. And Blender also has quite the learning curve, but like Unity, there's a lot of free resources out there, a lot of people that post tutorials that you don't have to delve into the whole thing right away. You just have to know what you want to do and then find the right tutorial for that, and then you can just build off of that. So it may seem daunting at first, but again, a lot of resources, and that's why we love open source software. Like I said, we made a panel-based game in Unity. This is the setup for Unity, one of the setups that you can have. And we see the HR diagram in the middle right here. And then over on the left side, we see these panels. So it's basically the layered game. So every time we call something, it just brings up a new layer. And there is some coding that goes into it. There is some little more in-depth work. But again, there's so many resources out there that you can just follow along with the tutorial and get things working fairly quickly. Blender we used to make the visual assets. So we used it to make the animations. We used it, well, mostly the animations of the stars, either the individual ones, because we'll see later when I pull up the actual exhibit, but also like the group animations. And Blender, again, is pretty daunting with using the nodes and the materials and everything. But again, there's a lot of resources out there, and if you just start like step by step, it actually turns out to be pretty easy, and you can build upon your earlier work and make things better as you like tinker with it a little bit more. So that's a great part about that. Here's one of the star animations we did. There was a lot of playing around with it. I think I ended up using an actual base layer image of the sun and then using like glow on that and adding like different effects to make it more, maybe not scientifically accurate, but more interesting for the kids to draw their attention because kids love touchscreens and flashy things. So, and then we used Inkscape to make all the other assets like the text, the buttons, the design and everything, and maybe not the best thing for that. There's probably another thing to do, but I like working with Inkscape, and yes, I'm sorry, we did use Comic Sans, and I got a lot of comments on that. But again, it's for kids, so it's a nice, friendly font that even though we never admit that we like it, do we really hate it that much? All right, fair. But yeah, so what we ended up doing was we got 2 touchscreens from a local company. One of them houses the HR diagram there on the left, and the other one, not a current picture. The other one actually has the more popular game, I'm sad to say. We have a little tic-tac-toe game we got from Houston Museum of Science, and that's great because we were able to put our own questions too, but we're not talking about that one. But the kids again, they're drawn to touchscreens, they're drawn to things they can interact with, and shiny things are great. So it's been a little bit better than just like the styrofoam setup. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing I'm proud to say is that it's pretty kid-proof. We have, besides the other tic-tac-toe touchscreen, we have another touchscreen that we got students on campus to make a solar system interactive exhibit for. And both of those crash all the time, and the students can figure out a way to get out of there, and suddenly you're in Chrome and on YouTube, and they're doing things they're not supposed to. But I'm happy to say that they haven't figured out a way to get out of this, so that's good. But again, like I said, it's a panel-based game. So here we have the different buttons. We have little information on the side. What is an HR diagram? We have showed different labels, regions of the HR diagram. But they can also pick on the stars themselves. So we can select a star in the main sequence and learn a little bit more about that. We did have a couple of versions. The first one was the wall of text, and that was very clunky. Nobody's going to read text. So we decided to go with bullet points, but we do have the option that you can learn more, and there we have more information if the kids want to. The other thing we learned is that kids do not tap something once. They will click repeatedly. So if you have a button on top of where the other button was, they will go in and out of this over and over again and not actually read anything. So we decided to make the buttons not overlap, so when they're tapping, they actually have to move to get out of what they got into, and that makes it a little bit better. But back to the layer game, so the layer setup. Again, here we have main sequence stars, but then we can explore next over here on the side. And nope, that's not a good example. If we look closely, we'll notice that the other layer is still right back there. So they can always go back and follow that path that they got to that star, and that helps them understand the sequence a little bit better. Though this might happen after this. I mean, not with this case, but yes. Like they can explore red giants more and then go explore white dwarf. And the layers are always under that so they can see that sequence a little bit better and help them understand the connection a little bit better. And then again, with every back button, you just go back the one layer. And that's why it was very easy to do, because it's just the layers in Unity. It's not actually an in-game universe. You didn't have to worry about the physics or anything. And then, of course, we have a trusty little home button all the way over here that you can just reset. And then where's our sun? So that's another little blinking animation made in Blender. You can make it anywhere else very easily. And just a lot of things piled together and work out with this. I don't know, I kind of like it. And then the animations, again, just made to get the kids' attentions, and the kids like flashy and nice. So maybe not 100% accurate, but the cool thing about Blender is that we can import these transparencies that we see on the side, so you can get the glow of the star over and get that cool effect as well. But what next? What do we want to do? We want to end up making it a little bit more interactive. I want to see if I can use the Unity actual like game engine and have the kids be able to make a star. And depending on how they make the star, what mass and everything, where that would fall on the HR diagram. So maybe you want to add a little more capability. Granted, this project has fallen pretty far down on my list after I did this part, so we'll see when I get back to that. But we want to make it more interactive because, again, it is just a panel-based game, but it's nice and simple and surprisingly easy to do if you have the time to want to actually follow the tutorials and everything. So, yeah, that was quick. Any questions? And I hope, open source software can be very daunting, but once you start in there, and like, again, there's a lot of great resources for it, so that makes it a little bit less daunting. So hope this maybe inspires you to try something out. And if you want any of the stuff that I used, I'm more than happy to share stuff. So if you want to get in contact with me, you can. Okay, and now thank you. Any questions? Thank you. If you do have questions, we ask that you come to the microphone up here so we can hear you for the stream.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering, from what the grade or age group learners are capable of grasping the idea of what's along the two axes. Because I know that if you are in a conference and someone shows you a graph, they work with it every day and you have to spend some time, but what's on this axis, what's on that axis, and also in your application, can they click maybe on the axis to say, okay, how is that determined, and so on? Yeah.
That's a great idea. No, the axes aren't interactive, But that's a great addition. That might be a good thing to add. But as to the age range, again, this is in our exhibit area, which we have a scavenger hunt for the kids to do. And basically, we have 2 scavenger hunts, one for like 2nd grade and younger, where they're just counting things. And one of the things they have to find is the sun. So in this case, they just use this to look at the stars, look at the sun, and maybe find that. And then the 3rd grade and older, one of the questions is what color stars are the hottest. So there they can use that. They see the diagram, and then they hopefully interact with it enough to be able to read. And we tell them that actually the scavenger hunt is the greatest con Amy has ever come up with, because it's really homework for the kids, but you phrase it as scavenger hunt and they love it, but they have to read through the exhibits to answer the questions. And we tell them that from the start so they know that they have to be looking for details in all of these exhibits. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, thank you. No? All right, great. So, thank you so much. And starting off the morning right, getting done early so we can, take a nap after this. Let's. Who's next? Do you have your own? Oh, cool. So I want to put that up there. That's just HDMI. Do you have audio or?
No, we don't.
So just the HDMI. Perfect.
Thank you.
Cool. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Got it.
Can we fit both? It's okay. He'll move his back in a second. We'll make it work. Click that first. That's why. Click that. Click no thanks or something. And then go.
Okay, let's welcome our next presenters, Dylan Borgerding and Bryn Miller from the Adler Planetarium in Chicago, Illinois.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our talk. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Dylan, once again. This is our presentation about our new role at the Adler, a theater presenter and developer, and adventures within. Do you want to say something?
As you mentioned, my name is Bryn Miller. We just want to talk to you about our job. We think it's pretty great. It's new since the Adler reopened from the pandemic. So we want to tell you about how it works for us, and maybe you can find something that works for your planetarium as well. But first, we want to tell you more about us.
So I started my planetarium career in 2016 when I was in high school. I got a part-time job in Flint at the Longway Planetarium doing part-time presenting, and then after that I graduated, I went to college at the University of Michigan, where I interned at the University of Michigan Museum of Natural History at their planetarium there under Matt Linke, and I learned a whole lot from him. And then after that, I graduated college with a communications degree, and I, 6 months afterwards, got hired at the Adler as a presenter developer, and it's been a year and a half since then, and it's been an incredible journey. And that's my story up until now.
So, again, I'm Bryn. I graduated from Ohio State a little over a year ago, so that makes Dylan and I the first Ohio State and Michigan people to ever get along, and or at least give a presentation about planetariums together. And so I graduated about a year ago with a degree in astronomy and astrophysics, and during my senior year at Ohio State, I had a research internship in the planetarium where I was making solar system modules for a class that was going to be taught in the planetarium for the first time. I worked with Wayne Schlingman and Jennifer Johnson, and it was great. But after that, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, so I was craving a real night sky. So I moved out to Wyoming, did night sky tours for a little bit, but I realized I'm not outdoorsy. So I moved back to Chicago and got a job at the Adler. In October, I was hired as a part-time presenter, and then in February, I was promoted to full-time presenter developer, which is what we're talking about today. As we mentioned, this position is new from the opening of the Adler, so I'll take you over a quick overview of the structure. Well, we all know there's Mike, but Mike, this is about us, not you. So we'll start with Nick. So there's Nick, who's the manager, and then it goes me and Dylan, who are part-time theater and presenters, or full-time or theater developer and presenters, and we also have part-time presenters whose only role is to present. And in order to tell you about our experience, we'll go over 4 key areas. The first one is our approach to production, how we communicate with our part-time presenting staff to create cool visuals for them. Next, we'll talk about genuine connections. This is how we connect with our audience to give exciting shows. We'll talk about allocating our resources, getting the most out of the staff that we have. And lastly, why this job is great for us and not just the Adler. So that's our little selfish section.
So, let me get this microphone. In terms of how we approach production, I'm going to try and keep this entire presentation software agnostic, but if you're curious, in both of our theaters, the Adler, our full-dome theaters, we use Digistar 6 software. And our sort of approach to developing content hinges on 2 important features of our staffing structure, which is we source a lot of our ideas from our part-time presenters. We listen to them and we ask them for things that they are interested in talking about or things that they think the show ought to include, mostly for our live Star Talk shows. And then also we can get feedback from them. If we have our own ideas, something that we want to implement into the show, they're a great resource for how that works in their shows, how they like it, and how the audiences react to it. But another important feature of this is, as sort of like the sole content creators for our live shows, we have a great idea as to keep our shows consistent, or rather our visualizations consistent. Our idea, hopefully, is to be able to create 10, for example, different modules that any presenter can use in any way, in any order that they want, and it looks seamless. It looks like it's all part of the same show, and hopefully there's no weird sort of transitions, and the presenter can focus solely on their show and the content that they're talking about, and not getting the visuals to string together nicely. And then our second point, this is something that the Adler has sort of drilled into us, which is a really great way to go about planetarium presenting, is fostering genuine connections. And our main philosophy here is we want to give the presenter something that they're excited to talk about, so that sort of leads back into my previous point of listening to them as to what they want to talk about. And so we really encourage them to talk about things that not only that they're knowledgeable about, but that they're excited about, and hopefully that sort of bleeds into the audience. Of course, presentation is supposed to be educational, but it's also supposed to be entertaining. If the audience isn't having fun with the presenter, then they're probably not going to take anything away from it. So we really encourage our presenters to bring themselves into the show and let us handle the back end part of that. But also on the other end, half of my job is developing and the other half is presenting. So if I create something, I can go out into the theater the next day, present it to an audience, and get real-time feedback and see how the audience reacts, which is a little bit different than the secondhand feedback I might be getting from our presenters. And so that sort of duality really helps our production process. We can get feedback really fast and it really direct, and that allows us to change up what might not be working or do more of what's working really well.
So next, we're a hybrid position, so we can be either developing or presenting based on whatever is needed most. That normally comes from the availability of our part-time presenters. So if there's a month where they have a lot of availability, you might see us more on the development side. And if there's a month where they don't have as much availability, we'll be more on the presenting side. So it really helps us be able to be flexible, be able to be where needed, and beyond that, there's one of us in the office every day. So I work Tuesday to Saturday, and Dylan works Sunday to Thursday. So if there is ever a call off from a part-time presenter or someone needs to step in at the last minute, we are there. That job doesn't fall on Nick, who, for lack of better words, might have something better to be doing. And we can kind of take that from him and take the shows for the day. And it also allows us to kind of go into our own individual projects beyond just helping the part-time presenters with things that they find interesting to be able to give them good shows. We can take on projects that we like and projects that may not have we had the basically time for before. So now we're working on making a live science section, kind of a live news, which will talk about recent stuff in astronomy. So I know Dylan is working on JWST things, I'm working on Artemis, so hopefully we can stay more up to date on recent things beyond just helping the presenters get things that they need. And lastly, why this job is great for us. So that's a big reason why that this is so amazing. I mean, it's great for the Adler, but it's also an amazing position for us. First, this is full-time. So we can work on our planetarium career full-time and not have to have another job that supports that because, as we mentioned, we have a lot of time in planetariums. This is something that we're really passionate about and really love to do. So we're really excited that this can be full-time and that we don't have to split our time between something else to kind of foster this interest. Secondly, the development part of our job is in the office. So we get to spend time around a lot of established planetariums. We get Mike and Nick and Carissa and Steve, and we get to spend time around a lot of people who have been in this field for a really long time, which is really awesome for us. This job, as I mentioned, is a hybrid position. So we get experience doing public speaking, shows, as well as development in Digistar and that other really valuable experience. And we get to do stuff like this. We get to come to conferences, we get to meet people, we get to find other interests, do workshops, things that we didn't know before. So this job has a lot of great opportunities for us and doesn't only help the Adler.
And that's just about all we have. I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your morning. And if anybody has any questions, now is the time.
Morning, thank you. Just out of curiosity, what kind of advice would you give somebody that was stepping into your role day one, and they wanted to do exactly what you did? What would be your kind of encouragement?
I would say lean into the people around you and ask as many questions as you possibly can and fail fast. I have a lot to learn, and the more I get wrong, the more I can learn from. So, you have an answer?
Yeah, ask a lot of questions. I do that a lot. I have about 1 million questions a day that everyone can answer. And just kind of follow people too. If Steve and Chris are gonna go fix a projector, maybe I'm gonna go watch them fix a projector, or stuff like that. So there's always an opportunity to learn something, so follow people and ask questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
I think so.
Think so?
Okay. Thumbs up.
We have about 5 minutes before our next presenter, so if anyone needs a refreshment or to step outside, now's the time.
I'm not even trying to remember the surname, so yes, no Kevin. But your surname, oh yeah.
Okay, perfect. But to have them, yep. I wouldn't do that to you, yeah. I know how hard it is. Oh, they downloaded much faster. Cool. Got 5 minutes. Plenty of time. We opened the exhibit today, so I have new pictures.
So my passport was actually in my room at the Airbnb, and the lady was so kind to me to the
Okay.
Right, it's very good review. I asked deer on that, so like the artist of forest. So he's white
That's the one around here. We just have one kind of deer out here in the east.
Where did you grow up? In which state did you grow up? There's one of the young guys here that's from the planetarium on Long Island.
Yes, I spoke with
Students.
I spoke with him briefly. Because I remember. Actually, there's people from two planetariums. But the one of them, I know I've been to.
Welcome back and good morning. Our next presenter is Paulette Epstein from Michigan Science Center in Detroit, Michigan.
I cannot sit still while I am talking. So hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope everybody had a good time at hospitality last night. As she said, my name is Paulette Epstein. I'm the Director of Science and Theaters at the Michigan Science Center. So I am in charge of our planetarium, our IMAX, our 4D theater, as well as scientific partnerships in the community. I am also in charge of a lot of the science content that happens, and basically anything AV or that has an on-off switch in the museum. That's me. So I am a woman who wears a lot of hats, and for the theaters department, I'm basically a one-woman show. I want to talk a little bit today about some of the immersive experiences that we've been creating at the Michigan Science Center. So one of the exhibits that we created at the Michigan Science Center is an exhibit called Level Up. It's all about gaming and learning through play. And so we have several different areas. One of them is an arcade zone. This also includes a number of iPads that you can see that have games on it from Games for Change. If you're not familiar with Games for Change are all games that have sort of a social justice aspect to them. So one of the games that we have is about the native trails and stuff like that. Another one of the games that we have is Dumb Ways to Die. Which is, it's a really great game. And then the other one that we have is Plague Inc. I thought it was fitting to put into the exhibit. Plague Inc. is where you are a virus and you try and take over the world. And that is another one of those. And I thought it was actually kind of fitting to put into the exhibit at the time we put it in, because it was great for kids to see how things spread across the world. We've been able to witness that hands-on in the last couple of years, but it's always great to see how to avoid stuff like that. We had our arcade area that over there. We also included virtual reality in here, so we do have 2 VR headsets, 3 VR headsets, currently we're playing Fruit Ninja, but we're also talking about the mechanics behind virtual reality. So with virtual reality, it actually uses on the front of the Quest 2 VR headsets, it uses some of the same technology that's in autonomous vehicles. To be able to sense the world around you. This exhibit was sponsored by GM, so we really like to put that out there and really like to push that, especially when the donors are in the room. VR is a really great technology, and kids have a lot of fun with it. We did do Beat Saber for a little bit, but we found that the mechanics for it were just a little too complicated for some of the younger kids that were joining us. VR headsets also have an age limit on them technically. That age limit is, I think it's like 12 or 13 years old, but we did some research into that to see why that age limit existed on the VR headsets, and it's really because it won't fit their faces. So if they're doing short activities with the VR headsets, it's totally safe for kids younger than that. When we were building this exhibit, we were trying to figure out that age limit, and I had to research the average size of a 6-year-old head. And I blew up a balloon to the size of an average 6-year-old head. And that is, we made sure that it would fit a 6-year-old head and it wouldn't fit any less than that. So that is one of the ways that we got a little bit creative and innovative through this exhibit. We're also, you may also be wondering, how on earth do you keep kids from getting into the settings of the VR headset and changing everything and watching YouTube videos and all of that? So we are using a software on it, as well as it's a management software called Arbor XR. If anyone is interested in Arbor XR, I'm happy to talk about it. They're actually starting to look to getting into museums, and if you have less than 50 headsets, it's free. Yes, I know. So they actually created this for corporations to be able to do trainings for their staff and so you can manage the VR headsets that way. And I was like, well, I only have 5, because I've got a couple others that we're going to be deploying around the museum as well. I'm like, I only have 5. This is totally easy. So we use those VR headsets up in the exhibit. We also have video games. It's level up, you know? We gotta have video games up there, just plain old video games. But the games that we've chosen for this space are educational games. They're games that kids don't realize that they're learning. So you can see Minecraft up there. Kids were really creative in Minecraft. It really focuses on design. It really focuses on a lot of STEM skills that people don't realize that Minecraft focuses on. Super Mario Maker 2 is a game design program, so they actually create levels for Mario, and we talk about how that links to careers. So they're playing these video games as kids, and someday they may grow up to make those Mario levels. The other ones that we have are Portal 2, really great physics game for anyone who hasn't played it. It's great. We did find that one is just a little hard for people to pick up and play. So we are switching that one out. We decided something, but I don't remember what it is because we decided it yesterday. And then we have another game design program on the other side. So this is when we opened the exhibit. As you can see, the vacuum in the middle. And then we also, on the other side of the exhibit, had a traveling exhibit called Electric Playhouse Travels. So Electric Playhouse Travels was motion interactives. They had a wall interactive. They had what they call a pod interactive and an arena interactive. And they came in and they installed it, and we thought, we can do that. And so it was a traveling exhibit, and it ended, they loaded out very, very beginning of June, and we were like, yeah, we can get the projectors, we can get the software, we can do this. So that is exactly what we have done. We got the software. The software is a software called LumoPlay. LumoPlay is really great because it's relatively inexpensive. It runs on the Unity engine, which is great. And we actually plan to partner with the university. There's a creative design university nearby. So we hope to partner with them in the future, because all of these exhibits that are upstairs in our traveling exhibit hall are going to be moving back down into the museum when we close this at the end of the summer. And so we're really excited to partner with the Creative Design University that is nearby so that we can create games that are good for our guests as we continue doing some of these interactive exhibits. So Michigan Science Center, for those of you that don't know a lot about us, was the Detroit Science Center at a time, and it has a lot of the older exploratorium type exhibits. And what we were finding is that we were losing a lot of the kids. So we wanted to include a lot more of these sort of immersive experiences and motion interactives and ways to get kids moving and not just pushing a button and running away, because that is what they do. We call it fly-by learning. Shabutton. All right. So, basically we were like, well, we can do this. So we hung the projectors and everything. It opened today. So I do have a couple of pictures a little later on in the presentation, but I wanted to talk a little bit about like the areas of the exhibit that people enjoyed and what they sort of enjoyed about it. So favorite part of the exhibit, why are these all a terrible blue color? VR was definitely a favorite, as were the motion interactives. And so those are two things that we do plan to take from the exhibit and bring down to the floor. Actually, when I get back, I'm going to be setting up 2 more VR headsets so that we can play videos and immersive experiences in our space gallery and our earth, wind, and weather gallery. So we'll have like a tornado that you can be in the middle of. And then we'll, of course, have a spacewalk, because those experiences, even if they're not games, they really do engage everyone. Then we also had, did you enjoy the exhibit? Everyone enjoyed the exhibit, and that's important. Everyone should enjoy the exhibits that we have. What I thought was really interesting is that everyone enjoyed the exhibit, but not everyone realized it related to STEM. And so there were actually a lot of parents that were like, my kid plays video games at home. Why should we come up to this exhibit? I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons why you should come up to this exhibit. One, your child is playing and learning in a group environment instead of in their home. I'm like, all of these games are educational, and it's, there's a lot of reasons why. And so here are some of the updated pictures of our exhibit. We also added a robot table, and so we have Sphero robots and that's what that Lego table is there. We added that to the arcade zone, and here's the new motion interactives all set up and ready to go. This is the first picture I have seen of them. So I helped hang the projectors, and then I went, see you later. So that brings me to our next project. So we were like, yeah, we can do this ourselves. And the Michigan Science Center, I've been there for 8.5 years. And when I was hired, I was told, we get a full dome planetarium in 2 years. 8.5 years later. So fundraising is a hard thing. Getting the money to be able to do some of these things is really, really difficult. So the exhibit that we had up on the 4th floor, up on our exhibit hall, we ended up getting about $100,000 to do that exhibit. We did it all in-house. And we were able to save a lot of money. And I was like, well, you know what? What if I buy a projector and build a planetarium? Why not? So here are some pictures. This one in particular is the Digistar 2 all stripped down. So we did have a Digistar 2 up until recently in the pit. So there is our Digistar 2 all stripped down. I did have to take out the lens and the no pots assembly so that I could have 3 really big guys carry the chassis out of the pit because our pit is upstairs. So there's a way to get in and out of it, but yeah, so I had to grab them and do that. And then there is our projector. And remember, this is DIY, friends. So it looks very DIY right now. I haven't had a chance to pull cables and stuff like that. So here we have our planetarium projector. It's a Barco F80 4K12, so it's very bright in that space, and a Navatar fisheye lens. And I ran all the cables, set up all the programming. We run VLC for any of our full dome programming. So we've got Big Astronomy and One World, One Sky, Big Bird's Adventure. And we also use OpenSpace for any of our live stuff. So we're really happy that the OpenSpace team has been amazing. Thank you. I also want to give a special shout out to Mike Smale and Dan Tell for being my, hey guys, will this work? Can you help? They were really great and helped me out with that. So here I am aligning the projector, and this is just the grid pattern that the projector projects. You can see there's a lot that goes down below the horizon line. This is before I moved everything up, but we were really excited. My staff were like, One World, One Sky is for full dome? Yeah, guys, it's for full dome, I promise. And so here it is all lined up. We did have to add a mask to the projector, but if anybody is interested, this vendors, cover your ears. I did this for $30,000. So, I was able to broker a couple of deals and all of that, and I can't point a finger at someone else when something goes wrong. I have to point it back at myself. I'm the only one who can fix it at this point. I can't rely on service, but the things that we are able to do with this on a budget, we are really, really excited about having a full dome planetarium, and our show's open the weekend before the conference. So. If anybody is interested in the resources, you can scan this QR code and it'll take you to my Google Drive that has all of the profiles and stuff like that I've been using for OpenSpace, including the web interface that Micah helped us with, and all of those resources are there. My contact information is there as well if you want to reach out. All right.
Really quick.
Okay. Navatar. Was that the most expensive, aside from the projector, part of the? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Moving right along into our next presenter, this is Drew Gilmore from the Sudicum Planetarium at the Adventure Science Center in Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, there it goes. Connects. All right. Good morning, everyone. So I want to tell you just a little bit about some kind of new gadgets and fun tricks we've been doing, especially with our ticket system data from our Blackbaud All-True ticket system. But it might work with other systems as well, depending on if you can get data out of it. And I want to talk a little bit about that just in a moment. But here is our new toy. It is a kiosk that is right at our front entrance of the planetarium. It's maybe just a few inches shorter than I am, so it's kind of tall. But let's actually go and take a test drive. This is actually live data here, and if I were to wait another 4 minutes, it would say that the Night Watch show today at 10:15 is now seating. And it'll automatically slide between pages, but if it is now seating, it's going to stay on that page until the showtime is ready. Although someone could come over here and touch the screen and slide from one slide to the other. And the last slide is our full schedule for the day. And by the way, we have a nice picture of the planetarium as well, so people can kind of see what it looks like inside. That QR code right there is a live link to our ticketing system. So if you really want to just buy a ticket today and confuse Bill, who's running the show, with lots of people who don't show up, you could buy a ticket right now. And so when the day is over, that last page will show tomorrow's schedule instead of today's schedule. And so we find that it's great because people sometimes come at the last minute and they want to buy a ticket, and they have to go all the way down to the other end of the building to the front desk to buy a ticket and come all the way back when they may not have time. Now, I very often don't suggest people try the QR code, because if someone knows what a QR code is, they're confident enough to use it, then they probably can get it done in time. If they aren't familiar with QR codes, I'm probably not going to push it because it may take them way too long, and they may get very confused. I think one of the failing points of our ticketing system is the online ticket sales page, which is not mobile friendly. It's a little slow. Their cloud is kind of slow too, really. Sometimes people don't quite make it, and I will let them in and make them promise they'll buy the ticket after the show. But anyway. Also, this is probably not my favorite place for that particular kiosk, because guests will line up along the ramp here, and they will stop, basically where the kiosk is, where I take the tickets, and then they go in those wooden doors there into the theater. And so that kiosk is kind of in the way a little bit. And so what I'd like to try in the future is to put it a little over to the right, kind of near where that trash can is. But unfortunately right now, that's where the power is, and so it kind of has to be right there, kind of a dead center. It's also kind of blocking our nice photo op of the Earth. So we will do some tweaking in the future, I think. So I don't want to get too technical with this, but I do want to show you a little bit of the back end of Blackbaud, so All-True, where we're getting our data. So you can start making these little queries in the back end and save them. And so this one is this ticket sales. And one of the problems with the ticket sales one is if there's no tickets sold for a show, it doesn't appear in that list. So you also have to do just a regular show schedule query as well. And I had seen these pages for a long time, and then a lot of credit for this goes to Derek Roll, who was our previous planetary manager, and he noticed this little hyperlink up here that says get OData link. What is OData? I don't even know what OData stands, what that means exactly. But basically, when you click that little hyperlink there, it gives you a little URL, and that gives you data in a machine-readable form. It's JSON. If you know what JSON is, it's just a JavaScript object. It's easily readable by JavaScript scripts, and also pretty easy for a human to read and write as well if you really had to. Now that looks kind of ugly right there, so if you open that in a web browser, You can also format it like this, so it actually does appear to be really good structured data with the show time, the show title, and some other capacity and stuff like that. But that's two different data sources, one with ticket sales, one without. And also, in order to get to this web page at all, you have to be logged into Altru as a user. That's not going to work very well for everybody. So Derek had set up a web server on Amazon Web Services, which is probably a little overkill, but it works pretty well. And there's a reason we use AWS. We'll get to that later. But there's a script on there that is going to log in, and it's going to open those links. It's going to take that data, and it's going to save it. In fact, it's going to merge these two data sources into one. In fact, it actually turns it into, grabs three data sources, because one thing Altru does not have is data about, well, metadata about the show. Like, there's not a field for a cool description of the show, what it's about, or what the age recommendation is, or where the graphics I store for the kiosk are. So I make a third JSON file with all that data in it, and one script is going to take all that data and squeeze it into one final file that we're going to use for all these different applications. And so another application we're doing is, this is our front desk signage. So you can come up to the front desk and see what shows are running. And this updates throughout the day as shows, for instance, once that 10:15 show is done, that's going to disappear. And it'll be maybe replaced by a new show later on in the day. We can actually, Digistar knows JavaScript too, so this can actually put up a walk-in slide while people are seating to see what laser shows are on our schedule. This is not our right now. It is though, and I don't want to. I'm not here as a vendor, so I won't mention that these are shows that laser shows that you can buy from us. Right. Anyhow. And we have this little gadget over here, which is hooked into our PA system. Let's see if this works.
The first floor planetarium doors will open shortly for our 11:15 show, Night Watch. If you have a ticket in hand, please make your way to the first floor planetarium entrance at this time. Again, the first floor planetarium doors will open shortly for our 11:15 show, Night Watch. Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons we're actually using Amazon Web Services, is because we can also leverage their Alexa voice service. So there's a script on here that is reading my data file that I prepared. It is making a text file. It's also checking, first of all, it's checking to see what time it is and if there's a show coming up. If there's a show coming up in 10 minutes, it's going to create that little text file. It sends it off to Amazon, and Amazon responds with an MP3 file that this Raspberry Pi plays back. The little breadboard over there, I can push this button, and it's a troubleshooting button, because all it does is go out to Alexa and asks her to say, voice check. And if I hear voice check over the speakers and the LED lights up, that's my good little troubleshooting. If I look at the combination of what works there, that gives me a pretty good idea of what's gone wrong if something is malfunctioning. Now, maybe you don't like the robot voice.
Good morning, Science Center guests. Join us in just 10 minutes for Early Explorer Story Time and Activity Time. Make your way to Eureka Theater on the second floor for Early Explorer Story Time and Activity Time, beginning in just 10 minutes at 9:30. We'll see you there.
So that show doesn't change very much, so we could do a pre-recorded voice with that one, and a little friendlier, I think. Now I want to try something with my phone. Let's see, I tried this a little earlier. Let's see if it works, if I remember how to do it. Oh, screen sharing. And so if you see that little purple blob there halfway down, that is our ticket sales for today so far, up to the minute. So that gives me a really quick way to see how many people are showing up to our shows and if something's sold out or maybe underperforming. And another cool tool I use, this one's a little less fancy looking, but this page is very short right now, but it tells me about all the school groups that are coming and what they've chosen for the next couple of weeks. And that one is actually a private event, so that's a different thing. But I've actually caught a lot of mistakes. Well, a few little errors in, like for instance, a school program's been booked for the wrong show, for the wrong grade level. So I'm able to fix that long before it becomes a problem. So anyway, hopefully I can get out of this mode again. Stop that. Cool. And so that's it. And hope that you, if you have any questions, let me know. That QR code takes us to our show sales page. Again, I'm not a vendor, so I won't talk more about it. But we have lots of shows if you want to come check us out. And definitely email me or catch me here if you have any questions. Well, do you have any questions right now? All right, then.
Sorry. I actually do have a question.
Okay.
Can you make sense of your Altru data without using any of your codes?
Without what now?
So you get your Altru data and then you analyze it using your Java codes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make sense of your Altru data without using that coding? We also have Altru and cannot make sense of our data.
I don't know. I might have to talk with you maybe after we're done here. But
okay.
I mean, if you can open up this page on, you can open this and you can actually see the various show times and the show titles and things like that. So
oh wait, so
depends.
that file link at the top of the readout is where you get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Very
cool. Thank you.
Sure. Just open that link in a web browser and it'll give you this data.
As some of you have already mentioned, yes, it is break time. So, thank you.